Okay. So in the anterior compartment, we're going to have tibialis anterior. So that's a muscle that doesn't go all the way into the toes. That's this one right here. Right? And that's going to do inversion and dorsiflexion. So it's going to move the foot. What's that? Okay. Why don't you, are you ready to do it? Let me see, so I've got the picture. Lateral condyle of the tibia, so like up here, and then this here, the upper tibial shaft, and then it comes around, it crosses on the other side of the medial malleolus, and it goes to the first metatarsal. Okay, so if you have these handout things, if you want, you can start drawing the different muscles on there. Because now we're going to start going through each of the individual muscles. Okay, so then tibialis anterior, like you said, is going to be the lateral condyle of the tibia, and then the upper part, upper tibial shaft. Okay. And then it's going to go across the tibia to the medial side. So it's going to start out up here, and then it goes across the tibia, and it's going to go to the base of the first metatarsal. Right? So is it going to do anything to the toe? No. It's basically going to just move the foot up like this. If this, I know this is the foot from the other side, but basically it would do this action here. So it's going to do inversion. Inversion meaning that it takes the bottom of the foot and turns it medially. And then also it's going to do dorsiflexion. And it's the prime mover of dorsiflexion of the foot. Okay. Have you ever noticed, like if maybe if you haven't walked for a long time and you do something like you go to the fair or whatever and you walk a whole bunch and then you feel sore right here? Okay. When you're walking, your foot comes down like that, okay, and then what the tibialis anterior is, it deaccelerates the dorsiflexion of or plantar flexion of the foot. So it slows down your foot from flopping like that. I mean, if you just walk like this and your foot just flops down, the tibialis anterior holds it back up and then gradually lets it down. So that's why if you're walking a lot, you're using that muscle. You're using it to dorsiflex the foot, and then also when you step down, it slows down the foot from just flopping down like that. So then when it's bringing the foot up this way, what kind of contraction is that? Remember what do you call a contraction when a muscle shortens? Begin with a C or an E? Concentric is when it shortens, and then eccentric is when it lengthens, when it contracts. Right? All right, so we have tibialis anterior, okay? And then what's the other muscle that's more superficial in this area? Okay. What's this going to? Toes, right? So yeah, what are you going to call it? Digitorum. So extensor digitorum. All right. You think there's going to be maybe one down in the foot? Yes. So it's shorter. So then what's the other name we better give this one up here? Longest. Yeah, the one up here will be longest, and then the one in the foot will be brevis. Okay. So if we have extensor digitorum longus, so then this one was going to be tibialis anterior. Okay. So let's do it this way. You can abbreviate it as EDL, extensor digitorum longus. Okay. So we kind of used up some of this real estate up here on the tibia. So now we're going to have to start a little bit lower down here. And then that's going to go to these toes here. Okay. So it's not going to go to the big toe because we got a special one for that. So it's going to go to the other two, the two to the second to the fifth. And it's going to go both to the distal and the middle phalanx. So if this was the toes, it would go to the middle and the distal. Okay. So that's extensor digitorum longus. Okay, so that's going to be the prime mover of toe extension, and it's also going to do dorsiflexion, dorsiflexion at the ankle. So it's going to move all the way to the toes, but since it's going across the ankle joint here, it's also going to do dorsiflexion at the ankle. All right, so that's what we basically consider the more superficial compartment, because those are the ones you can see from the surface here. Okay? Fortunately, I don't see any of it underneath there. So now we'll move into extensor hallucis longus. Okay? All right, so now we've used up a lot of this area on the top here, so now we're going to have to start a little bit farther down. Okay? Actually, it's going to be over on the fibula. Okay? So the middle of the anterior fibular shaft, and then it's going to come across here and go all the way to the distal phalanx of the great toe.
Can you move that down a little bit?
Yes, sure. Actually, here's the extensor hallucis longus here. Can you see that? So here it is from the book, and then here it is in the drawing here. So it's going to come from the fibula, then it's going to come down here and go all the way to the distal phalanx. Okay. And then it's also on here on the end there too. And then the only other one we have is this little extra muscle here, the fibularis tertius. And if you learned anatomy way back when I did, we used to call these peroneal muscles. So if you hear peroneal, it's the same as fibularis. You have peroneus. In this case, the only peroneus muscle that's in the anterior compartment is peroneus tertius or fibularis tertius. So that's coming down low off of here. So it's coming from the low part of the distal fibula and the anterior interosseous membrane, and then it's going over here on the little toe side, the dorsum of the fifth metatarsal. So it's going to be going in this area here. So this is the fifth metatarsal, and then this is the base. Remember when we talked about metacarpals, these are the base. I'm sorry, the head. Metatarsal heads, and these are the bases down here. So these are the metatarsal heads, and these are the bases here. So it's going to attach to the base. Because this one has a larger surface on the little toe side. Right? It's a lot different than on the hand. Right? There's a bigger surface right here, and you have a stolid process. So a lot of times, we talked about here, at the very end of the bone right here, you have the stolid process here. So we're going to have the stolid process of the fifth metatarsal here. So this peroneus tertius or fibularis tertius is going to come down the front side here. It's going to attach right there. Okay? So whereas the tibialis anterior is going to do more of what? What's this? Inversion. Then this fibularis is going to do more of an eversion also as it dorsiflex. Okay? So let's review the muscles that we talked about in the anterior compartment. Question?
It says plantar flexion nerve, the dorsal flexion.
Yeah, that's not right. Yes, because the other fibularis or the other peroneus muscles, they are going to be plantar flexion. So you need to fix that now. Thanks for catching it.
What do you mean?